Alright, it is 9:29 a.m. a Wednesday, and it is November the 3rd. As for the main watch list here, I'll probably just watch HTZZ. I don't want to really trade this one unless it does something clean, but it's a higher priced OTC. It's a real company, so I'm not too, ready to jump in that one. RGBP ideally can try to uptrend and do something off of VWAP. Maybe it can start a new run, kind of like AABB was. This one did have some good volume compared to the previous day, so maybe it can do something. As for AABB, I might just let it do whatever it wants. If it does maybe a morning panic bounce play and it looks clean, I might consider it, but this one might be something I'll stay away from, at least in the market open, unless it just looks so clean. SYXX maybe can continue the uptrend and do something off of VWAP, so that's really what I have in mind. I don't know if I went over this one, but I don't think I did. INDD could be a nice morning panic bounce play. If it does something like that, I'll definitely be looking at it. But yeah, that's what I have for right now. Alright, it is 9:41. I want to make a quick update. I think this is actually working with AABB, this morning panic bounce play. I did not go long this one because of how it traded yesterday, which was a complete massacre, right? But today it is trying to do it here, at least off of this move, and this is the one where I would have been most likely interested in trading. So it had this drop, right, and then it's playing off of this 17.5 level. Sure, okay, but I never went long. I don't even think I placed an order or attempted to go long, but I was just really watching it, and I just don't like them very much when it has a downtrend, right, and then it looks like it might try to hold a support level and then make that morning panic bounce play, and then it immediately has a big squeeze, right, like in terms of price action towards the upside, and it has all this volume and it gets sold into, right, and then it just starts dancing back and forth literally between the bottom level and the breakout level in theory here, and then the red candle, and it just breaks through. But this is one where I could have been in at 17 because it had this red candle here. It downtrends, it panics because it just failed this level right here. It starts going crazy, people are screaming, maybe 17 is going to hold, maybe 17, and then 17 breaks, and then all the people just start panicking, selling max, panic, max, whatever. But then it held itself, right? It wasn't able to get that much lower. And then the next candle it opened, right, and it had one more downtrend, I believe, but it was not able to go much further. So that would have been like a confirmation that even though it broke this level 17, it wasn't going to be for very long, and there wasn't a lot of downside once it did break. So that was when I could have been interested at just 17 flats, and it is working now, but this is sketchy just overall given how it traded yesterday and in general, but it is looking like it's trying to do something. I would have had 2,000 shares, at 17. That would have been a $340 position. I'd be up maybe $12 right now, but I don't know. Maybe this one can work out. I don't mind missing it just because of how it traded yesterday. It is trying to hit the goal, which is VWAP, so this one can eventually maybe perhaps try to break 18, which would be cool. Maybe he'll do like an inverse head and shoulders here, maybe shoulder head and then the shoulder, and then maybe I might consider it a little bit, right, an entry, and then risk off of the day low. I might be interested in that, but if I am, I'll trade a very small size. RGBP, nothing. This one looks like it had like a dip and rip, but it doesn't seem like it's looking that nice anymore. This one had a dip and rip, if you ask me, with HTZZ. This one, I'm probably going to remove it. It just doesn't have the volume. It's not really looking like it's going to continue running. IND looks like it was actually going to do a panic, right, when it broke this level right here, but it caught itself, so I'm just letting that do whatever it wants. I'll be looking at AABB, maybe an inverse head and shoulders, maybe. Alright, it is 9:45. I was pretty close to taking a buy at 17.3. There was a big 200k seller on the ask right here, and somebody just took it out, and then it just jumped the bid in the ask. So this one is clearly working, the inverse head and shoulders in theory. I would be very quick to sell because this is a sketchy stock, but maybe it could try to make a run towards 18. It really sucks. I was interested in it. It's not there anymore, but there was that big seller. I just wanted to see how it trades just a little bit, if it's not just going to continuously keep downtrending. And it ended up being this uptrending candle right here. It happened super quickly and I didn't get executed, but I'll keep watching. And yeah, maybe this one can try to make a run towards 18. There is some people supporting 17.5, so it might try to do something, but yeah, in theory it could have been at 17.3. That wouldn't have been too bad. Okay, it is 10:02 a.m. and you can see the 17.61 print. That is me right there. So I just got in and out of a trade, and it can still work out, but I'm just kind of worn out from it. It can totally try to do a move later, but you know, it's doing that thing that I say a few times lately, that when it looks really desperate, right now it's close, 17.5, 17.51, but what they would do, which is what is happening right here, you see 17.2, and then they have 17.51 on the ask, so they kind of like get rid of the people on the ask that is super close to the bid, and then they raise it, right? Or the bid drops off, but the ask doesn't move, so they're trying to trade with a spread, trying to make it hold a certain price, and that is looking super desperate whenever it does that. So for example, this candle right here, 17, I believe 17.61 was at the bid, and then at the ask was like 18.01, right? So they're trying so hard to get people to hit the ask, right? So it makes a nice big move, and then they're hoping that people are jumping in front of the bid so they can try to push the price up. At least that's what it seems like. So I was in. Why? Because this is an inverse head and shoulder second higher low. This one, I guess it kind of worked out. That's what I'll put in my trade journal. It kind of worked out. Here's the shoulder, head, shoulder. I did miss this setup here. I could have been in this one for sure. This one, in theory, yes, but this one was a bit sketchy. This one, again, definitely, but the way it turned around was super quickly, and that really, you know, was the main reason why I didn't get it. I'm not going to chase this. So shoulder, head, shoulder, and this is the second higher low. I was trading it right here actually at 9.54, and then it did break a little lower, but my risk level was this shoulder breaking, because if it breaks, then it's not really an inverse head and shoulder second higher low, maybe a double bottom, and then it'll play off. But you know, this was pretty much the move. It did get to 18 just a few times. It wasn't really that impressive the way it got there. It was super desperate. One of the main reasons why I got out of this setup, and I barely got out of there profitably. I made 65 pennies. Obviously this one was pretty much a scratch, but you know, I didn't lose anything, and it was a good attempt, because you know, even though it didn't really work out that nicely here, I feel better about this trade because I traded a dollar risk level. I wasn't just like, let's throw $300 in here. So my entry was at right here again, 9.54. That was 17.55. That's what I was executed at. So in theory, 17.55, right, was my entry, and I was risking this one breaking. So let's say it breaks and there's a little bit of slippage, so I sell at 17, which is right here, right, 170, and then I'm in at 17.55. That's pretty close to my $8 risk level. You know, in theory it would be $8, but then I would trade some weird position size, and I don't want to do that, because then it might be hard for me to get in and out of a trade. In theory, maybe 17.55 with a 1,500 shares, right? Right? I guess that doesn't really change it that much either. Oh, that's right, because it's 17, and then I'm in at 17.55. Yeah, the difference would have been closer to $8 here, but I don't want to trade 1,500 shares. Maybe it actually happens, right? But if I trade 1,000 shares, it goes in and out super quickly, because it's a nice round number. It can fit into any of these blocks pretty much. And then, you know, it's just something that I can get in and out of quickly. It didn't work out here really, but there was, in theory, that setup there. It did get to 18, so it's not like it just completely, you know, fell off a cliff where I bought here and it just kept downtrending and then it broke and got to my risk level. I didn't do that. It did actually try to make a move, but it was super desperate the way it did it. There were a lot of people selling on the bid, so like dumping their shares on the bid. It didn't work out. That's fine. HTZZ, nothing that I'm interested in. Maybe it can break 33 and do something cool, but I'm very reluctant to trade this one because it's a higher priced OTC. Wow. IND is doing the same thing it did yesterday. Here's a dip under VWAP, and here's the uptrend. Ideally, it puts up, you know, a higher low off of this level right here, and it keeps uptrending. I keep disrespecting IND, and it keeps providing setups. You can see here, dips under VWAP, and then higher low, right? And then it just got too excessive. It didn't really put up another dip. It just kept uptrending, and that would have been in theory a time to sell. You could do like a trend line, and then once it breaks it, you could sell there, I guess. But here's the first one, a dip under VWAP. Ideally, this thing can keep moving and providing more dips, although this one might be a little sketchy because it's going to have to break this level if it's going to keep trying to uptrend. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Just a little choppy, very ugly here, very hard to be in and out. Although I guess 23.1 is the bottom, 23.5. So I guess the range isn't that horrible, but yeah, that's the only thing. It does look like spaghetti, but it's trying to do it, and it has that level it could try to break out of right here. So I'll watch IND. I don't really see anything else that I want to really trade, but I'll start looking at other setups. Alright, it is 12:07, and I want to make an update. I did have an attempted buy, and why would I be interested in buying this again? Because it was making an overall big picture inverse head and shoulders, and on top of that, because it dropped, you know, from this 21 level, and it got as low as what, this 15 level. So, you know, a 20% move, pretty nice. You know, it's one of those tsunami type panic stocks, not like yesterday's bloodbath. This is more of like a controlled tsunami type panic, and I wasn't really interested in this here. Look how choppy and ugly it was. It did turn around. There was big volume, but I don't like this price action, and I think that summarizes this whole entire stock. Really bad price action, but I was interested in it because it was in theory that 11 a.m. turnaround, inverse head and shoulders. I've seen this pattern plenty of times before. I tried to buy at 11.09, which was right here, and that was at 16.49, which was at the ask for a moment. But unfortunately, you can tell by this candle, it turned around immediately, and I was not able to get executed, even though my order was like 10 seconds into this minutes. Right after my order went through, I think, you know, the bid and the ask just lifted up, and that's really something that AABB does a lot. It's pretty desperate. I'm not saying that when the stock is being desperate, and you can see 16.76 by 16.95, like, you know, it trades with a pretty big spread. Now some stocks just do that because that's the way they are, but this one trades very closely, and it also trades with a large spread because it's just so desperate. I'm not saying when it tries to desperately make an uptrend by lifting the ask and then keeping a very low bid, and then people jump in at the ask, and then the uppies push in, you know, start placing their orders, jumping in front of each other in the bid. If they're successful, of course, that is not going to uptrend, because it clearly did. And yeah, just had that stupid big spike there, so I wasn't really interested in the setup afterwards. I wasn't trying to chase it. I had 2,000 shares because that was my, like, in theory, dollar risk level. And yeah, it didn't work out. It just, you know, it just immediately went forward, and it did get to 17. I think there were a few prints here at above 17. They tried one more time, you know, also VWAP, it rejected. It might break out later, but it doesn't matter. I was interested in the inverse head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder. Not really a second higher low from the shoulder here, but I guess you could say it is. Yeah, I just had some crappy price action. If it traded better, I would have probably have been in this one. I could also be less hesitant, like I could have traded in theory this part right here. If I just went ahead and jumped in the trade, had my dollar risk level set in place, which I did, and that would have been nice. But you know, I just wanted to see some more confirmation. But maybe I do have to be a little more jumpy with stocks that trade like trash. But you know, still, it offered a move. I just wasn't a part of it. At least I did trade it once, and yeah, that's what I have for right now. I don't think I'll be trading anything else today, but maybe there's something in the afternoon, but probably not. Alright, it is 11:33 p.m. and I am here to call it off. Overall, I had just one trade with AABB, but it was nice to see that it did offer some movements, and I did see other people, big traders like Mark Crook, trade it later in the day around here, basing it off of this 16.5 give or take support level that it played right there, and sold into this uptrend here, which isn't really something I was going for, but I did note that it was a possibility that it would do something like that, and this one actually ended up being not so bad. I just really did not trade this one as much as I could have because of how weird the price action is, and maybe I should just be a little less picky with it. But I did have that trade back at 954, which was right here, the inverse head and shoulder, second higher low, shoulder head shoulder, second higher low. As you can see, it kind of worked out, but it didn't really do something that nice. And then I was interested in the big picture inverse head and shoulders. That was at 1109 right here, and it turned around. It did do like another play off of that 16.5 level, but hey, it didn't break under it, so I guess that's a good thing. And I think that's why Mark Crook got in at like 17, so that's pretty cool just to learn how other traders trade the same thing, and he was going for this move here to sell into, and that was actually super profitable. I'm starting to see the patterns, I think, more clearly, and actually trying to be in the trades, and I'm super happy. I feel a lot better trading with a dollar risk level, because in theory I already know how much I'm going to lose if the setup doesn't work. It's not like gambling, like, oh, I won this amount, dang, I lost that amount, oh, I made this amount. I already know how much I'm going to lose if the setup doesn't work, and if the setup works, then that's super awesome, and ideally it's more than my risk level. And yeah, a lot of times I could have played it. This one was kind of iffy, but I could have played it here for sure, and this was a quick move towards the upside. I think I might just consider just jumping in the trade if I see the setup working. And if it just keeps failing and it breaks the risk level, too bad, but that would have gotten me into this one right here for sure. As for IND, this one did fail to break the previous day high, and I kind of actually ended up being like a short setup where you're not just risking the day high, but you're also risking the fact that it had the same level the other day, and that was a high, and it did a downtrend. So it is something I'm going to be looking at for the previous day. Maybe it can do a morning panic bounce play in the morning, so that will be pretty nice. I didn't really look at HTZZ. That's all I got. It's a lot of room for improvement, but I'm happy I at least did try AABB once, and I didn't like the price action, but maybe I should just be less picky. But as long as I calculate my risk reward, I think I should just jump in the trade as long as it looks like something nice, because I do tend to pick the right setups. As in, I don't just pick some random setup and it immediately fails. That doesn't happen very often. So a lot of room for improvement. I'm very happy with where I am, and I definitely have to keep going.